Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe in Love, here bringing you another episode of Sports Overview Topics. Now, I hope everyone's being safe because here in New Mexico it is very snowy, very snowy. Yeah, I hope everyone's been safe. It's not really snowing much in New Mexico, but hope everyone's being safe. Try not to be outside much, and nonetheless, hope you welcome back to the podcast. Like I said, if you're new, like and subscribe. Click on the bell for notifications. There was a bunch to go over as the sports world is concerned. Saturday was UFC 254. There were a few good fights. I'll go over the outcomes. We had also a very good NFL Week 7. I'll go over that as well. And the World Series might be coming to an end tonight. Maybe. We'll see. But again, thank you all for joining me. And let's get into the podcast, shall we? So, starting off with UFC 254, was a good card. It was kind of a replacement card because so many fights were rearranged and had replacements. So it was so of names, but still a quality card. Rounding out the prelims, we had Tai Tuivasa versus Stefan Struve, in which Tuivasa Bam Bam got the upper hand, finished Struve at the end of the first round. They were in the clinch, and Tuivasa just landed an overhand right, broke the clinch, and landed some good shots, which dropped Struve, and they called it 1 second left in the first round. So, hats off to Bam Bam. He needed the win after that loss to Junior Dos Santos. And Struve, it's just one of those class. He's been around forever. Of course, he never really got that over top. He never pushed past the brink. He never hit the hill or got over the hill in prime contention, but still good for Tuivasa. As for the last three fights in the main card, we had Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris, both coming off losses. Need to get back on the win track. Volkov got the finish in the second round. It was not the most interesting fight, but Volkov with his long-range striking and a solid front kick to the body of Walt Harris dropped him, and Volkov finished off with strikes. Good for Volkov. He needed that coming off that decisive loss to Curtis Blades. his last fight. But Volkov, the much more accomplished striker, got the win. Afterwards, called out big names, Overeem, just Junior, just any name that he said would get him back in title contention. So, yeah, so we'll see with Volkov. There are a few interesting fights lining up for him, with the possibility that Stipe and Francis get the rematch in March. There's going to be the question of who gets the next shot after. But there are a few fights lining up for him, so we'll see. In the co-main event, we had Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. This was an intriguing fight going into it. Whittaker, of course, he lost again his title to Adesanya in devastating fashion. Then he took a little bit of break, came back, beat Darren Till in his last fight. In this fight, or of course we know Jared Cannonier, last couple fights he beat Anderson, and then he beat Jack Hermanson. So he was kind of on a roll coming in this fight. But this fight was primarily about the striking and the pace of the Reaper, Robert Whittaker. Cannonier, he landed some shots, but he didn't really find that killing blow to finish Whittaker. It was just Whittaker, the volume just played this decisive outcome, plus the pressure. He landed some takedowns, which ultimately won him the decision against Cannonier. Cannonier, hats off to him. He has the power. Obviously, he thought perhaps with a decisive win, he gets the next shot at Izzy, but it just didn't materialize. And for Whittaker, he said he does want to talk about his next fight right now. I mean, there's a bunch of possibilities. He could fight Izzy again, rematch. But yeah, there's a bunch of interesting fights. Or there are a few ways you could go about it. But I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch between him and Izzy. And then we get to the main event. Khabib 28-0. Fighting Justin Gaethje. Khabib, he's fought who's who, and I mean, in his last couple fights, submitting Connor, submitting Dustin. He beat Daryl Horcher. He beat Iaquinta. He beat Edson Barboza. Just on a roll. And Gaethje, his last few fights, he knocked out James Vick. He knocked out Edson Barboza. He just picked apart Tony Ferguson, and going this fight, he thought, okay, with all the stuff going into it, and Gaethje's style, he thought perhaps he had the tools to be the one to beat Khabib. And for the first round, it looked like, okay, maybe things were going a different way. Gaethje, he thwarted the takedown attempts of Khabib. He landed some good shots. He landed some leg kicks. However, it didn't really stifle Khabib. His conditioning was on point. Gaethje, it looked like he was a little overwhelmed by the moment, I would say, and tried to end it as quick as possible, which I can understand because you're fighting Khabib, but at the same time, it's a 5-round fight, and you don't need. And Trevor Whitman, his coach, even said, slow down, because Gaethje was kind of all guns blazing in the first round. Second round, Khabib, he only needs one takedown, really, to do what he needs to do. And Khabib got that one takedown, moved in the mount, and got a triangle choke on Gaethje, and just Gaethje tapped out. The referee didn't see. I mean, it looked like from the view that he should have seen it, but he didn't. And then Khabib, Gaethje passed out, and then the referee decided to call it. So, hats off to Gaethje. Khabib moves to 29-0. After fight, he announced that, this being his first fight without his father, he was crying in the octagon. Gaethje came over to console him. Good that Gaethje's okay. After then, in the interview after fight, Khabib talked about how he was talking with his mother. He said that he promised her that this would be his last fight. And Khabib said to keep his word, he would retire after this. Now, there's a few ways, because there are a few fights that I still would want to see out of Khabib. Whether this holds up as true or not, because we've seen a lot of people say they're going to retire, and then they don't. So, I mean, it's the heat of the moment, but there are a few fights that I would still love to see of Khabib if possible. For starters, For years, they've been talking about, okay, a GSP Khabib fight. A lot of eyes point to that possible fight. That's possible. Second, now Michael Chandler is signed with the UFC. That's a fight I would like to see, if possible. Tony Ferguson, that fight's been made like 6 times, and uh, it hasn't once materialized. That's a idea. Also, Conor McGregor. Now, I know they fought, but there was a lot going into it that Conor, he wasn't really focused. He wasn't all in on that fight. And I would just think if he was 100% into it, a rematch, maybe things would go a little differently. But yeah, there's Khabib or Gaethje also said after fight that he said that, well, he's in good shape. He doesn't want to get too fat, so he said maybe 6-8 weeks until he wants to fight again. So, or until he makes another fight. So, intriguing. Now, if this does remain true for Khabib and the retirement is real and he vacates the belt, there are a few ways to go about it. Because Conor is going to fight Dustin in January. So, that's a thought. So, that's one side of the coin. I don't think it would be for the vacant title, maybe, but who knows? But Tony Ferguson around, I think him versus Michael Chandler is definitely a fight to look at. You got Dan Hooker and Justin Gaethje. That's a fight that would be intriguing. You got Charles Oliveira, who's on a roll. I mean, you got a lot of depth at 155 to try to sell this out, but if the retirement remains true for Khabib, then the 155-pound division is still in good hands. Alright, so those are my thoughts on UFC 254. Now we'll get into Week 7 of the NFL 2020 season. It was a very good week as far as football is concerned. It didn't fall short of expectations. Speaking of falling short, let's get into the first game of the week. So, Thursday of football, we had the Giants going to Philly to take on the Eagles, and it was a pretty good game for what it was worth. I mean, it was intriguing because, yes, the NFC East is pretty bad. I was correct because I predicted the Eagles to win. I mean, they frustrated me to start the season. Now, Carson Wentz, without they've been playing the last 2 weeks against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I regain some trust in him. Now, I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I mean, he fell short of the end zone on that 80-yard, 90-yard run, and when he was scot-free, and fell short. He tripped himself. They still got a touchdown on the drive, but it was just feel bad for Daniel Jones. The Giants had their chances. They were ahead by 11 into the fourth quarter, but there was also the pass to Evan Ingram that he couldn't corral, that would have iced the game for the Giants, but they just didn't hook up, and the Eagles, despite a penalty by center Jason Kelsey that moved them from the 1-yard line to the 15, they hooked up on the last touchdown. Wentz to Boston Scott that won them the game or by one, and the Giants, they had their chances to come back late. However, Daniel Jones was strip sacked and ball was recovered by Philly. Now, what I said in the last two plays by the Giants, Daniel Jones, I mean, you gotta have more urgency in a late scoring drive. And he did not look urgent. I mean, it's not like you have the old Cowboys O-line from the 90s or earlier this decade. It's the Giants O-line, which is okay. I wouldn't say it's middle of the pack, but it's okay. But yeah, there was just not much urgency, and still, the Eagles win because that tie with Cincinnati. They're ahead by half a game in the division. Still, all teams in the division have a chance to win it. So we'll see. Then we get to the Sunday games. They did not disappoint. Arguably the most intriguing matchup of the day. Pittsburgh going to Tennessee, 5-0 versus 5-0. Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. I mean, this was a tale of two cities. I mean, I predicted Tennessee to win it in a close game. This was close at the end. But the first half, it was all Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's offense, they controlled the clock. They controlled the game for the most part. It was 27-7. Excuse me. In the third quarter, but Tennessee showed fight. They had picked off Big Ben 3 times. And it was 27-24 late. They had picked off Big Ben for the third time. Tannehill and the Titans were driving down the field. They looked to be in good shape to at least tie the game and send it to overtime. However, first, it was a intentional grounding on the Titans, which moved the field goal back, or moved the field position a little back. Secondly, they just miss Cord Davis on a potential game-winning touchdown in the back of the end zone, but it was not to be. And then Stephen Gostkowski, we know his struggles this season. Obviously, he had a bad week 1 against the Broncos, but the last few weeks he has gotten better, much better. The old Stephen Gostkowski. I mean, he kicked the game winner against Jacksonville. He kicked the game winner against Minnesota. He had done better as of late, but in this case, he missed the field goal, and Steelers, they hang on. Gotta give it to them. They're now 6-0. The Titans, they have their first loss of the year, but the Titans are still a good football team. They are 5-1. They are a fighting football team. Yes, Derrick Henry didn't have his way in the first half, but they stuck to it, and they are a complementary offense. Derrick Henry, of course, did have his best day. Ryan Tannehill and that offense kept them in it as well, and they showed fight. Their defense, I still have questions about, and I think that's where it limits them. However, I still believe in this offense, and they are still a good team. But hats off to the Steelers, and hats off to the Titans. Next up was I would say it was good but depressing. Dallas going to Washington. I predicted Washington to win this. I was correct. However, I thought it'd be closer than it was, but Washington won 25-3. It was just the Cowboys are a mess right now. They are just a mess. Even if Dak was healthy, this Cowboys team is just a mess. And there doesn't seem to be much fun. See, with the Titans, they showed fight being down 20 points. This game with the Cowboys, they showed anything but fight. Especially when Andy Dalton, he gets injured. He gets knocked out of the game. And barely any of their teammates do anything. It's just the Cowboys are a mess, and I don't want to take anything from Washington because they have done well. Could say they should have won against the Giants last week, but it's just a mess in Dallas. Now with Washington, they relatively seem like the healthiest team in the division. Their O-line is pretty solid. Their front seven is really good. Now, Landon Collins, he has safety in this game. They are going to have to try to replace him, but still, this is a good defense. An underrated defense. And hats off to Washington. Right now, if I had to pick who's going to win the division, I would go with Washington. Because, I like Philly and what they've shown the last few weeks, but it's just the injuries are just Washington's more healthy, plain and simple. Next up, this game was just, I don't know what to say. The Bills won against the Jets, which they should have, but the score was just sloppy. So the Jets, we know how bad they are, had a 10-0 lead on the Bills. And they thought, okay, after a few drives, the Bills would open this up and make it ugly against the Jets. Well, the score was ugly. 18-10. 6 field goals by the Bills. Now, hats off to rookie Tyler Bass. There were 2 misses, which would have made it a 14-point game, but still, this was... I don't know what to think of the Bills right now. They start out 4-0. They lose. They lose to Titans. They lose to the Chiefs. I'm just conflicted with the Bills. I just don't know. Next up was a pretty good game between division rivals, Carolina going to New Orleans. Now, New Orleans, Teddy Bridgewater going back to the Superdome. Drew Brees without Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas again. How would this offense fare? It was still pretty good. It had some ugly spots, but still did well. Carolina, they hung in there. It was just down to Carolina's last drive. Teddy Bridgewater got sacked. They were in field goal range, which had Joey Sly attempt the longest field goal or attempt to make history, make a 65-yard field goal. However, it was just a little bit short. And New Orleans, they hung on and beat the Carolina Panthers to go 4-2. I still love the Saints offense. However, their defense has been iffy to me. It's just weird, their defense, but their offense, obviously Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, they still got a bunch of pieces to keep them in games, but it's just weird. Next up, there was pretty much a blowout of confusion. The Packers, they beat the Texans in Houston 35-20. Now, the Packers, they needed to have this win. They needed to bounce back after that embarrassment to Tampa Bay. They get on the winning track against Houston. But, I mean, did Anthony Weaver, the defense coordinator, ever think, okay, we need to double team Davante Adams? Because there were too many times I saw Davante Adams one-on-one with a Houston defender, and I mean, it's just, seriously? I mean, no no Aaron Jones, no David Bakhtiari, and you thought, okay, well, you kind of knew what Aaron Rodgers was going to do. You could have at least double-teamed Davante Adams, I don't know, in the second half, because he had over 100 yards in the first half. Could that have been simple? Apparently not, but good for the Packers. Get back on the winning track. Next up was a great Battle of Ohio. And I hope this is a harbinger of things to come for Ohio football. The Browns, they beat the Bengals in Cincinnati, and man, was it entertaining. Back and forth, down to the wire. Baker Mayfield, after 5 incompletions, threw, I believe, 20 or 18 straight passes. He was on fire. Now, of course, people say it was against the Bengals. I mean, chill. Last week, he got so much criticism. I mean, it's ridiculous. But this was a win the Browns needed to have. Now, Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, you have a stud in Joe Burrow. He kept them in this game, and it was just a touchdown with 11 seconds left by the Browns that just won it over for them to Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had I would say, 3 really good, important key receptions in this game. I mean, now the Browns lost OBJ in this game, which can be both good news and bad news for the Browns. The bad news is, well, you lose the threat of OBJ. You lose the threat of the defense having to cover him and pay more attention to him. And some of these plays, you can't draw up that you were trying to get to him. At the same time, it can be good news for the Browns, although I don't want to wish injury on anyone and hope OBJ gets better ASAP. But it can be good news for the Browns as they don't need or don't have the feeling, I would say, to have to go to week in, week out. But however, good news for Browns as well. Nick Chubb, they can get back after next week's bye. So we'll see. But hats off to both Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow. Ohio football is back in the NFL. Next up was a crazy ending. Not much you can say. The Lions they defeat the Falcons as time expires. I mean, this was a close game all throughout. The not as back and forth and high scoring as the Battle of Ohio, but was still a close game, back and forth. Of course, all people will talk about is, or the main story is Todd Gurley accidentally scoring with over a minute left when Detroit had no timeouts left. They were ahead by 2, and if Gurley had just stopped on the 1-yard line, the Falcons would have been able to take it all down and kick the game-winning field goal. However, Gurley, I guess it was just heat of the moment. He had a brain fart and just scored. You could see Jamie Collins was all happy. He put his hands up. He was like, touchdown! Because he knew that their offense would get the ball back. Matthew Stafford had a really good drive. And then on the very last play of the game, Matthew Stafford, he gets out of the pocket, throws to a wide open TJ Hawkinson in the end zone. Kick the extra point, and they win by 1. Once again, Atlanta finds a new way to lose, and I feel bad for them. But you also have to look at the Lions. Okay, they're now 3-3. They are very well in contention to win the 7th seed. They can absolutely contend. They have the talent. It's just all about putting it together. But good for Detroit, and I feel bad for Atlanta. Next up, it was the Chargers hosting the Jaguars. Now, Justin Herbert is just on fire. He's having a phenomenal rookie season. He gets his first win, thankfully. It's strange. The Chargers against the Buccaneers and against the Saints had the games won, and against the Chiefs. That's 3 possible wins. However, they squandered those leads. However, good for Justin Herbert to get his first win of the season. The Jaguars, I mean, they have some good young talent. It's just, I feel like Doug Marrone and Dave Caldwell, this will be their last season together. I feel like it's inevitable. But yeah, good for the Chargers. Not much to say. And I don't want to go over this game, but I have to. The 49ers blow out the Patriots at home 33-6. Now, I thought it was going to be an ugly, close game. It was ugly, but it wasn't close. I mean, first off, hats off to the Niners. I mean, they were reeling after that loss to the Dolphins. But they came back first the Rams, and then this game against the Patriots. I just don't know what the Patriots do. I mean, Cam, he had 3 picks. I mean, Cam, if you're gonna use him, use him. Like, he's not just a drop back passer. He can run. And it feels like they're limiting him, or he's just not comfortable since returning from being positive with COVID. But it's just, the timing of it is just difficult. I don't know what to say. I mean, we have pieces still on that defense. Excuse me. I'm hot wearing this hoodie, but yeah, so I just don't know with the Patriots right now. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Next week is a must win at Buffalo. Must win. Now, Buffalo, of course, has looked unimpressive their last 3 games, but I just don't know. Next up, we had the Chiefs, our first snow game of the year. Chiefs going to Denver in a snowy game. I mean, I still have questions about Drew Lock. The Chiefs, they played complimentary football this year, or this game certainly. They picked out Drew Lock. It was a pick six. Mahomes didn't have to do a bunch. He had to relatively minimal, and the offense and the defense and special teams took care of it for them. I mean, hats off to the Chiefs. It's going to be intriguing to see how they go the rest of the way. Because you got the Chiefs, you got Pittsburgh, you got Tennessee, you got Indianapolis, you got Cleveland, you got a few interesting teams in the AFC. We'll see. Next up, this game was originally supposed to be Sunday night, but due to Trent Brown, right tackle, getting diagnosed with COVID, this was flexed into the afternoon, and Seattle and Arizona was the new Sunday Night Football. The Bucs are just hitting on all cylinders. I mean, Brady, he's more comfortable. And that offense is just playing complementary. Whether it's Ronald Jones, whether it's Keyshawn Vaughn, whether it's Leonard Fournette. Now they're bringing in Antonio Brown, and it's just no words. But that defense as well is playing up to par. Whether you got Shaq Barrett, JPP, Devin White, Steve McClendon, who they brought in, that's Dominic Sue, Jordan Whitehead. They got a good defense. The Raiders, they were ahead 10-7, but just didn't materialize for the Raiders. They got 3 of their starting offensive linemen back, so at least that was something. However, Richie Incognito is still hurt, and Trent Brown, of course, diagnosed COVID. Hope he gets better ASAP. But this was all about the Bucs. I gave some thought, and this was game of the week. Probably game of the year so far. Cardinals hosting Seattle. Just did enough to beat Seattle in overtime, 37-34. What a game. I mean, Seattle, it looked like they were gonna run away with it. And Russell threw 2 picks. First of all, the the play of the day was Budda Baker picking off Russell Wilson inside the 5. And then DK Metcalf runs down Budda Baker inside the opposing 5, saves a pick 6, and tackles him. That was the play of the day. And then in the fourth quarter, Seattle was ahead by 10. Now, Arizona, they were driving. They looked content to kick a field goal, but penalty on the Seahawks allowed Cardinals to score a touchdown. Their defense did its job. They got the ball back, kicked a game-tying field goal, and sent it to overtime. And then in overtime, it was just crazy. I mean, so the Cardinals, they were driving down, looked to kick the game-winning field goal. Cliff Kingsbury noticed the play clock was dead or almost done, so he accidentally iced his own kicker. Gonzalez made the field goal that went through. And then Gonzalez misses it. And then Seattle gets the ball. There was a potential game-winning touchdown by DK Metcalf that was called back because David Moore was holding. And then Russell, he throws a pick because miscommunication by the wide receivers. Isaiah Simmons takes it back. Then Gonzalez gets his redemption, kicks the game-winning field goal, and Arizona did not lead one bit till the end. Arizona showed heart. They showed fight. And basically made a statement saying, you need to pay attention to us, basically. Now, Arizona's 5-2. Seattle's 5-1. It's crazy, the NFC West, to say the least. And then the final game of the week, Monday Night Football. We had Chicago going to LA, playing the Rams. This was interesting because Chicago has a really good defense. The Rams find new ways to trickery or confuse you with schematically different plays, and that is what showed up. Basically, the story of the day was the Rams' offensive line was able to protect Jared Goff better than the Bears' offensive line could protect Nick Foles. And Jared Goff, he didn't do a lot, but the Rams' defense did enough to put him over the Bears. Now, there are a few good drives by the Bears, but they were either halted by an interception or being greedy and going for it. Now, the Bears lost. They're 5-2. However, I still like the Bears. Looking at the rest of their schedule, they still play the Vikings twice. They still play the Lions twice. I'm pretty sure this team can split it with the Packers. They got the Texans and they got the Jaguars. Potentially, that's at least 4 wins for the Bears. And easily 9-7 or 10-6 could get you in the playoffs this year. So, hats off to Rams. They did what they needed to do. As for the Bears, of course, some will count them out, but I'm not going to, considering their schedule and the pieces they have. Their defense will keep them in games. It's just a matter of will their offense score enough points. So it's 9-5 for the week. Still a good week, but yeah. So those are my thoughts on week 7. Into my week 8 predictions. Interesting week lining up for the NFL. So, first starting off with Thursday Night Football, we got the Falcons going to the Panthers, Carolina. Falcons lost that heartbreaker. Carolina, Christian McCaffrey is practicing again. However, he's not expected to play. Still, I think Carolina is the better team right now, and I'm going with Carolina to win 27-20. Next up, what may be the game of the week, Pittsburgh going to Baltimore. 6-0 versus 5-1. The last 2 weeks, I've picked against Pittsburgh, and they have burned me. Well, I'm picking Pittsburgh this week in a exciting game, 30-28 over Baltimore in Baltimore. Next up, the debut of Tua. The Rams going to Miami to play the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins O-line, I think, is better than the Bears O-line. Still, that defense can cause issues. And in his first start, I think he'll score some points. That offense is pretty decent, but ultimately I'm going with the Rams 28-17. Next up, there's not really much to say. Jets in Kansas City, 35-7, Kansas City. So next up, Minnesota off their bye, going to Green Bay. Interesting. I think the I don't know. I'm going with Green Bay, 35-28. Minnesota will keep it close, but I just think Green Bay is a better team right now. Next up, Indianapolis going to Detroit. Detroit, don't look past them. They're 3-3. I think they got some new life to them. Indy, they're good, but sometimes they look. Obviously, they came back against the Bengals, but some weeks their offense is up and some weeks it's down. I'm going with Detroit to win this 26-23 over Indianapolis. Next up, 3-3 Raiders going to Cleveland to play the 5-2 Browns. Now, Cleveland won that emotional game against the Bengals last week or on Sunday. Excuse me, sorry. But getting back to Raiders and Browns. The Raiders, I don't know what's the status of Trent Brown, what's the status of their O-line. I'm not quite sure. I think the Raiders can keep it close. However, I'm going with the Browns to win this 24-20. Next up, we got Tennessee after first loss this season going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Now, Tennessee, obviously the loss narrowly against the Steelers. The Bengals, Joe Burrow and their offense is going to be good for years to come. However, their defense has a bunch of holes. I'm going with Tennessee to get back on track, 27-19. Next up, we got Patriots going to Buffalo. This is a weird game because Buffalo, it feels like they're on a 3-game losing streak, even though they won versus the Jets. The Patriots, I want to pick them, but I'll pick for now. Go with the Bills, 28-20. Next up, we got the Chargers going to Denver to play the Broncos. Now, about two young QBs. However, one's going this way and one's going this way. I'm going with Chargers to win 21-15. Another solid game. San Francisco going to Seattle. Seattle lost in overtime against the Cardinals. 49ers have won 2 straight. I think that Seattle will slow down this game a little bit. I mean, they need 3 picks to lose. And still, the best player in this game is Russell Wilson. And yeah, Russell Wilson. And they'll get back on track. 33-24. Next up, Saints going to Soldier Field to play the Bears. This is interesting because Chicago's O-line didn't look good against the Rams, but the Saints defense has not looked really good past couple weeks. So something's got to give. However, I still believe in the Saints more than I do the Bears. I think it can be close. So I'm going to go with the Saints to win 30-23. Next, we got Sunday Night Football. Cowboys going to Philly. I don't care if it's Ben DiNucci or Andy Dalton playing at quarterback. I trust Philly more than I do that mess in Dallas. So 26-14 Eagles. Last game of the week, we got Tampa Bay, Monday Night Football, going to the Meadowlands to play the Giants. Tom Brady facing the Giants again. Poor that it's not Eli at quarterback. Nonetheless, the Giants, I think, will score some points, but Tampa Bay is just a better team. 40-24 Tampa Bay. And those are my picks for week 8. With that, so that's our episode for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're new, like and subscribe. Like I said, click on that bell for notifications for your pro wrestling reviews or sports reviews and predictions. So again, thank you all for joining me. I am Angel to One Love. I'll see you on Thursday. Peace.